end. Okay, so creating a winning cover letter can be a dry topic, but we'll try to make it interesting and have you feel at the end of the webinar that you are feeling pretty confident in writing a great cover letter. So our agenda for today is an introduction to cover letters, types of cover letters, appropriate cover letter format, sample cover letters, and submitting your cover letter electronically. A definition of a cover letter: it's sent with the resume to highlight those elements of your education, experience, and skills that most closely align with the specific needs of the employer. It should prompt that employer to read your resume. And it is considered to be an effective cover letter as a sales pitch and should be clear, concise, positive, and relevant to the position you're applying for. So why write a cover letter? It should give the employers a quick summary of how your qualifications match their specific needs. It should highlight unique and specific contributions you bring to the job. It should make a very positive first impression to help you stand out from the competition. And should also attract and hold the interest, inspiring employers to find out more about you from your resume and offering you that interview. So if your cover letter and resume are not getting those invitations to an interview, you may need to go back and revisit those documents and see if you can change them to reflect your skill set better. Types of cover letters. So we could be responding to an advertised position, or we could be doing a follow-up to a cold call to an employer. So perhaps you've contacted them by phone or walked into their location and are then sending a follow-up cover letter and resume after the fact. A prospecting letter is another type of letter in which there is no advertised position, but you're feeling that you've heard good things about the company and you want to introduce yourself to that company and perhaps inquire about positions or openings that might be coming up. And then there are thank you letters. Okay, so before we start writing letters, we may want to have certain pieces of information next to us. So a job description and a job advertisement are good things to have. And you're thinking perhaps that these should be one and the same thing, not necessarily. The job advertisement could be 2 or 3 lines in a newspaper, a magazine, on a website that basically gives you very brief information about the position that's open, and the job description maybe, of course, more detailed information about the job. The advertisement may lead you to that website to gain more information about the whole job description. So you should be sure you have all of the information before you sit down to write your cover letter. Information about the company. So this is key to have information to show that you've done some research around the specific job and the company you're applying for. It shows them that you have some knowledge about their services and perhaps have looked at things like their mission statement, their values, their company structure perhaps, their history, and so on. So there's a lot of information to be gained perhaps from a website or from pamphlets or information you've read in newspapers, magazines, or seen them on the news. Your resume, of course, to have next to you when you're writing your cover letter, and performance reviews and letters of reference. So performance reviews would be things that you've had in past employment when you've sat down with your supervisor and have reviewed your work performance. So in those performance reviews, they might have outlined things about duties you performed particularly well, other ones that you may need to improve upon, and perhaps establish a plan as to how you improve upon those skills. So the performance reviews may have some very positive things to say about your work and how you perform that job. Letters of reference. Could be things that you've had either a past or present employer write for you, and they indicate, again, your work ethic and your work performance for that employer. So instead of you trying to tell a potential employer how great you performed these specific duties in the past, some of these pieces of information might be inserted from your performance review or your letters of reference into your cover letter, and it tells the prospective employer that past employers have found your work to be very good. Okay, so the cover letter format then is, first of all, your contact information. Very important to have that at the top of the letter. The current date you're writing the letter, and the employer's contact information. Next, the subject line, so what your letter is about, the salutation, dear so-and-so, the body of the letter, and then the complimentary closing and your signature. So fairly straightforward with the format. So here we have an example of the contact information that you might include on your cover letter. So this should, of course, include your complete mailing address and any valid contact information that you wish to share with the employer. So it could be an email address, phone number, a LinkedIn address. So there could be a number of things you want to include for contact information. So this example is from Charlie Brown. He lives on 100 Happy Road in Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia. Postal code is B3S1Z2. His email is cbrown@email.ca. And his LinkedIn address is ca.linkedin.com/in/Charlie Brown. So when we're looking at this individual's email address and his LinkedIn address, his name is certainly part of that information. And it's important that the employer links those specific contact pieces with you and your name. So in your job search, you may want to consider the impression that that makes upon the employer and whether or not you feel your contact information is reflective of you. So for an example, if you have a Hotmail address like hot pink fuzzy bunny slippers at hotmail.com, may be a great address, email address to share with family and friends, but it may not be the email address you want to have when you're job searching. Of course, then the date that you're writing the letter is included on that cover letter as well. So our cover letter format, continuing on, so it should also then include the employer's contact information, hopefully including the name of the person you're addressing the letter to, the company name, and the full mailing address. Next, we should look at a subject line, and it should be a reference to the competition number, if there is one, and the job posting number and title. Salutation, dear Mr. or Ms., the name of the individual when you have a contact name. Where it's not been given, perhaps in the job ad, you may want to see if you know someone who works at that particular industry or company that can give you the name of the individual to address your letter to, or you may call the company and ask them for the name of the individual to address the letter to make sure it gets to the right person. However, if those things aren't possible or you're not getting the name of an individual person, as the recruiter in that particular case, use their job title. So something like Dear Hiring Manager or Dear Human Resource Manager. That should get your letter to the person who's going to be examining all of the applicants. Okay, so the opening paragraph should explain why you're writing your cover letter. So just a couple of statements basically on where you might have seen the job ad or who might have referred you, as specifically the job you're applying for, and so on. So not a long description or detail, just a couple of statements. The body of the letter should be where you're actually highlighting your qualifications for the job and what you have to offer that company. So here's where you really excel at putting in your specific skill sets and how you match what that employer is looking for. It should help to see that there's that connection between your skills and their needs. The closing paragraph should state your interest in a personal meeting and how you'll follow up with that particular company if that's possible. Okay, so here we have some examples of a sample opening paragraph. This letter is in response to your advertisement for an administrative assistant as posted in the April 20th issue of the Halifax Chronicle Herald. My resume is attached for your review and consideration. Okay, another example, I'm applying for the position of shipper receiver as posted at the Service Canada Centre in Bridgewater. My resume is enclosed for your review and consideration. Again, these are just examples. This may not be your writing style, but it gives you some information as to the types of things that would be appropriate to put in your first paragraph. Okay, so now we have shared some other examples of opening paragraphs, which you might find helpful as well. The enclosed resume is for your review and consideration. My primary interest is in the area of accounting, and I would consider other related administrative positions that may be available. So that's another tact you can use. And again, wording has been adjusted a bit for the specific position. Another example, further to our telephone conversation of April 2013 concerning employment opportunities, I have enclosed a copy of my resume for your review. As mentioned, I have over 8 years experience in this field and have direct skills in blank and blank. So you'll have to forgive the dates. These are just examples, so you certainly want to have the correct dates as you're writing things in your letter. Another example, following a recent conversation with Ms. E. Waters concerning employment opportunities in the engineering field, I'm directing this letter to your attention at her request. With a Bachelor of Engineering and a good knowledge of the oil and gas sector, I'm very confident that I would quickly prove to be a valuable asset to your team. My resume is enclosed for your review. So this one shows that there's been some sort of follow-up with someone they first contacted in the company, and they've been pointed in the right direction of the recruiter. The last example, further to our recent conversation, I have enclosed my resume as application for the position of blank as per your request. With keen interest in sales and sound knowledge of XYZ Incorporated, I'm very excited about your great opportunity. So again, this is some different wording, but it can be applied to a number of different situations. Okay, so now we're looking at the body of the cover letter. So you want to review that job advertisement and underline every required skill and job duty. Then you want to kind of sit down and see how you match those required skills with skills that you possess. Be able to identify proof about how you possess those skills. So you might want to include different places or opportunities where you've worked and you've used these specific skills before. Create one or more paragraphs that show the employer you have the skills to do the job. So these are the important things that the employer wants to know about you in that cover letter. Okay, so here we have an example of a cover letter that has a job advertisement in it, as well as a response cover letter written. So the job advertisement looks for an office manager. So there's an immediate need for an office manager with over 5 years experience, and they will supervise small staff, manage human resource functions, ensure compliance with legal and regulatory agencies, provide administrative support to operations managers, complete expense reports, supervise accounts payable, accounts receivable, clerical staff, provide monthly status reports to finance and operations management, and be proficient in Access, QuickBooks, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and Microsoft Word. So quite a number of requirements that the employer is looking for and some very specific skills. So the letter written in response to that ad starts with, Dear Hiring Manager, I am very interested in the office manager position advertised in last Sunday's Chronicle Herald, as I believe that my background and qualifications are just what you're looking for. I've enclosed my resume for your review and would like to bring to your attention a few highlights of my experience, which are relevant to the position. So you can see next that this individual has kind of sorted out the different skill sets they feel are important to that employer in 3 categories, and they've bulleted those specific topics. So it's quite okay to do this if you don't want to write in a paragraph format. Bulleting things are quite acceptable. So they start by speaking about the human resource management. For the past 8 years, I've managed a 10-member staff as head of the HR department for Acme Industries, including supervising the clerical staff in charge of accounts payable and accounts receivable. Next topic is the regulatory and report compliance. I have expert knowledge of all laws and regulatory agencies affecting human resource management with a proven record of compliance. In my present position, I am responsible for completing all reports, including expense reports, financial related reports, and monthly reports to management. Next topic, computer skills. I'm proficient in the use of Access, QuickBooks, Excel, PowerPoint, and Word. I use all of these applications on a daily or weekly basis. So again, very good to show that you've used these applications frequently so the employer understands that you are very familiar with them. So don't be afraid to use those descriptive terms in your cover letters. I would welcome the opportunity to meet with you in person to provide more specific information as to my background and accomplishments. You may reach me at the phone number 902-444-5555. I appreciate your consideration of my application and will look forward to your call. Yours truly, Jane Doe. So they have focused in on the specific skill sets the employer is asking about in that job advertisement, and they've written specifically about those things and how they meet that employer's requirements. So again, helping that employer link your skills to what their needs are. So a sample closing paragraph would be something like this. I'm confident that I possess the skills, education, and experience required to become a valuable part of your team and would appreciate an opportunity to meet with you at your convenience. I may be reached at 902-444-5555 and look forward to receiving your call. Thank you for your consideration. So again, very brief, to the point, just asking for that interview. So in targeting your cover letter, you want to make sure that you're writing with a specific job in mind. So using language that matches the employer's language is certainly something that helps them connect your skills with what skill sets they are looking to fill. So certainly want to look at the job ad, look at their website, and see if some of that language appears in your information, your cover letter, your resume. Only use relevant information and customize the letter to match the information in that job advertisement. So our next example of a cover letter is from our friend Charlie Brown. And he's writing to Mr. Fred Smith, who's the purchasing director of oil and gas contracting, Center Street, Halifax, Nova Scotia. And so his title, or subject line rather, is RIA Purchasing Administrator, Oil and Gas Contracting, and the competition number 04356. So he's certainly indicating this is the job I'm applying for. Begins with, Dear Mr. Smith. This letter is in response to the job posting for Purchasing Administrator, again the competition number 04356, on careerbeacon.com on January 31st, 2013. With a business administration degree and 7 years experience as a professional purchaser, I'm very interested in applying my skills to the oil and gas sector. My resume is attached for your review and consideration. Next paragraph, this is the meat of the whole thing. I have direct purchasing experience in a fast-paced, dynamic environment where attention to detail, excellent record keeping, code analysis, and negotiation skills contributed greatly to my success. As purchasing coordinator with Need Many Things Incorporated, I've developed many of the basic processes for the purchasing function, which grew during my tenure to over $4 million per year. Acting as primary purchasing contact for the corporation, I've effectively communicated with 15 branch locations throughout North America to negotiate the best deals. I successfully administered the overall compliance of software licenses against usage for 1,000 employees and the purchase of IT equipment and parts. Proven success in procurement is a direct result of my ability to multitask, prioritize workloads, maintain follow-up, and meet critical deadlines on time and on budget. So you can see here he's done quite a lot in his career so far with this company. He's certainly not been involved with the oil and gas industry, but he does have a firm background in purchasing. So he's more than willing to take on the tasks of learning new things about a new industry. The numbers he uses here, the $4 million per year, the money he's been dealing with, looking at communicating with 15 branch locations and purchasing items for 1,000 employees certainly helps to paint a picture for that prospective employer to see the level of responsibility he's used in his past work. His final paragraph, I'm confident that my experience, education, and proven communication skills would be a great asset to your purchasing team. I would like to meet with you to further discuss my credentials for this position. I'll follow up with you next week. I can be reached at 902-555-5555 or by email at cbrown@email.ca. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Charlie Brown. So it's always very nice to include that last portion of the final paragraph and thanking the employer for their time and consideration, because the job, the hiring process is very time consuming. Okay, so let's talk about electronic submissions of your application for employment. So if you're sending an email cover letter, it's important to follow the employer's specific instructions on how to submit that cover letter and your resume. Remember, this might be the first test that you have to pass with the employer. Some employers will give you many ways to apply, so you could fax it, email it, drop it off at their location, or send it by regular post. Other employers may say you have to apply this way, and they give you one way to apply for a job. So you need to follow those instructions to the letter, if at all possible. And if there are no instructions on how they want to receive an email, resume, and cover letter, then you should perhaps combine the cover letter and resume as one attachment, and when they open it, they have everything they need. You should make sure that the subject line in your message clearly states the position for which you are applying. So if today I apply for customer service at Tim Hortons, I'm going to perhaps put that in my subject line and use that to indicate that I'm applying for that position. But tomorrow, if I'm applying for customer service at McDonald's, I need to make sure that I change that subject line to reflect that new application to another company. If I use the same subject line as I used the previous day, when McDonald's receives a customer service Tim Hortons email, they may delete it because they felt I sent it to the wrong place. Okay, so some formatting tips that we want to review. To use a header format for your name and contact information which matches the style of your resume. So if you'd like to see everything being very cohesive looking and all very similar, you may want to just take the header from the resume and copy and paste it into your cover letter. Choosing a font style which matches your resume. So here they're recommending 11.5 in a font size. Normally 11.5, 12 is considered good. If it's Larger than 12, it looks like you're trying to fill up the page with font size or the size of the letters. If it's smaller than 10, then it looks very tiny and difficult to read. So keep that in mind when you're choosing a font style and a font size. The common standard is to use a 1-inch margin border around the outside of your letter to give enough white space on the letter to make it attractive. And try and keep your letter to 1 page. Okay, so here we have an example from a gentleman by the name, or could be a lady, by the name of Lin Yang, and they're writing to Mr. Smith. And Mr. Andrew Smith is the branch manager of ABCD Distribution Canada in Driver Avenue, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. So we start with, Dear Mr. Smith, I read from your company's relocation to the Dartmouth Burnside Industrial Park in the Globe and Mail and would like to inquire about the possibilities of openings with your organization. I'm interested in a career in shipping and receiving and have enclosed my resume for your review and consideration. Through my past work experience in the shipping and receiving field, I know that ABCD Distribution Canada is a major distributor in the global market and am familiar with both your product tracking and billing systems. My years of experience in industrial sales, both inside and outside, has allowed me to hone my skills in building strong customer relationships, developing proposals, and maintaining accurate records. I have a proven history of maintaining strong client relationships with my customers and firmly believe that building a solid rapport with clients is of the utmost importance for success in business. So at the end of this paragraph, the individual has kind of put in some of his own personal ethics about how he believes in doing business. And if these types of things are something that resonate with the employer, this may be a very good connection to make with that employer. So don't be afraid to put some of those types of things in cover letters. And also, he's not kind of sat and waited for an opportunity to occur. This individual has gone ahead and wrote an opening cover letter and introduced himself to the company based on information he's read in the paper, and so is kind of being very proactive in instigating an opportunity for a job that perhaps doesn't even exist at this moment. All right, so as we carry on with the cover letter, saying, as inventory manager with Special Products International, a major industrial wholesaler, I gained several years' experience in shipping and receiving products locally and internationally. My solid understanding of regulatory requirements and trade tariffs has proven to be very beneficial in assisting clients with meeting their inventory needs. In addition to my extensive work experience, I have a Bachelor of Commerce degree and am well versed in several software and accounting packages. My communication skills are excellent and I work well within a team environment. With my proven self-management capabilities, I consistently ensure tasks are completed on time and to the customer satisfaction. And again, a bit more about his beliefs in conducting business. Last paragraph, I'm confident my sales and networking capabilities will be a definite asset to your team. I'm available to meet with you at your convenience and can be contacted at, he gives 2 numbers, perhaps an office number or home number and a cell number. I look forward to hearing from you in the near future and thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Lin Yang. So again, a great prospecting letter. So some additional tips for us to customize each cover letter and target that cover letter to a specific type of employment. Try not to repeat information in your resume, but give some examples of required skills and when you've used them. Let that recruiter assess if you have the skills to do the job. Write simply and clearly. You have 6 seconds to grab the attention of a recruiter as they skim your letter. So we may have, very brief time to be considered, and we may reference that short time in another slide. Okay, so our next sample letter is from a gentleman by the name of Adesh Muhammad, and he's writing to Mr. James Oak. Mr. James Oak is the manager or owner of Perpetual Garden Perpetual Care Gardening Services on Wedgwood Road in Halifax. So his subject line is "Attention, dear Mr. Oak," and he starts, "Dear Mr. Oak, further to our telephone conversation of February 20th concerning employment opportunities, my resume is enclosed for your review and consideration. My direct experience in providing lawn care services to the public would be of benefit to your operations. My work experience includes all aspects of lawn maintenance, including mowing, edging, and fertilizing, as well as weed and pest control. Adept at planting perennials, annuals, bulbs, and shrubs, I'm also knowledgeable in pruning trees, shrubs, and hedges. I can repair small gasoline-powered engines and operate power mowers, dethatchers, and spray equipment. A recent course in the handling of toxic materials has taught me the value of safety in the workplace and in the operation of equipment. An independent and reliable worker, I have Class 5 driver's license with a clean abstract and can be depended upon to meet established deadlines. I would be pleased to provide more details concerning my qualifications. You may contact me at 466-5643, or you may leave a message. Sincerely, Adesh Mohammed." Okay, so this is certainly giving a good breakdown of his skill sets. There are a number of things in there that make him an attractive candidate. So he has taken some recent training in the safety of using toxic materials. He's has a Class 5 driver's license with a clean abstract. That kind of assures the company owner that if you're giving this individual the responsibility of a company vehicle to go out and do property management work or property maintenance work, that he's a careful and cautious driver, and so your company vehicle is in good hands. He's also has some mechanical ability, which not everybody may have, so he may be able to repair small breakdowns out in the field and not have to pack everything up and go back to the shop to fix something. So he may still be able to meet the deadlines for the customers and so on, and save that employer time and money. So a very good cover letter as well. So some more tips for us is to personalize your cover letter. Address it to the person, not just to whom it may concern. That's kind of a passé term these days. If you're not able to find the name of the recruiter, use the title "Dear Hiring Manager" or "Dear Human Resource Manager." The next point is very important to remember. Proofread carefully. Correct grammar and spelling could be the difference between a successful hire or not. Remember those 6 seconds we talked about, and the fact that the recruiter is going through these applications very quickly. So if they start to read your letter and they start to see typos and grammar mistakes and things like that, they're on to the next letter. They're not going to try to read through something that's not put together well. So it's great to have someone else read your letter to identify any areas for improvement or corrections. If you're a registered client with Employment Solutions Society, Nova Scotia Works, you can get your case manager to assist you with perhaps composing a cover letter if you're having difficulty with it, or proofreading your cover letter for you and giving you some feedback on the cover letter, so you feel pretty confident when it's being sent out to an employer. One more point to make about spelling: spell check. It's not 100% reliable. It is a tool that's very helpful if you have some issues with spelling, but it can lead you astray. So one thing I've seen on many resumes, and these are resumes that are done by professional groups as well, not just individuals, but they misspell things. So it's very important to make sure you check your spelling and read through it a number of times before you send it out. What I've typically seen in some of the letters is something like WHMIS, WHMIS, which stands for Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System. And spell check will always add the additional I, so they spell it WHIMIS. So certainly something to kind of keep an eye out for. And thank you letters. So thank you letters demonstrate good manners and a professional attitude. It shows appreciation for the employer's time And it, again, reiterates your interest in the position and the organization. And you get to state information you might have forgotten to say in the interview. So these are things you can go home after you've had that interview, kind of consider how the interview went. If you feel that you could have added more information on certain questions, you can certainly add it to this thank you letter. And it does help to get your name in front of that employer one more time before they actually make their decision. So this can be of great benefit in your job search. So think about writing those thank you letters after you've had these interviews. So here we have an example of a thank you letter. So this is being written by David Donnelly, and he's writing it to Ms. Muhammad. So Ms. Muhammad is the manager of Bard Limited, Halifax, Nova Scotia. And he starts with, "Dear Ms. Muhammad, I enjoyed meeting with you and your associates last week. It was a highly instructive interview. I never realized that Bard Limited was moving in so many directions. Enclosed is a copy of my revised resume. You will note that I have provided more details about my experiences with Bantam Photographers Limited. I've also highlighted my photographic accomplishments. I feel confident that with my experience and skills, I would be a strong addition to the expansion of your firm in the Maritimes. Thank you for the introduction. To Mr. Williams, I hope to hear from you soon. Yours sincerely, David Donnelly." So not only has he kind of added any information and so on that he felt the employer would know, but he's actually revised the resume and sent the resume with this thank you letter because he felt that there were certain pieces of his experience he hadn't really highlighted very well in the resume. So he's added those pieces of information and sent along a revised resume. Okay, so here we have a template which may help folks in putting their cover letters together. So at the top, you have your name, your address, and your phone number and email address or any contact information you wish to provide. Keep in mind your email address should be something that you're able to check often. So if you're only able to look at your email once a week, it may not be often enough to use it as a good method to contact you because you may have missed an opportunity for an interview. As well, the phone number should be a number that you are able to leave messages on the phone number, and you should check the message system to make sure that the message system isn't full and the employer is able to leave messages when they call. So next, of course, is your date you're writing your letter, and then the employer's full mailing address, and "Dear so-and-so," and then we start with some wording around your paragraphing. So this does give you some wording to start with. I find that often people struggle with knowing what to say or how to get started. So these are some handy statements that can be revised to whatever situation you might be writing your letter in, whether it's a prospecting letter or a cold call letter or what have you, or an answer to an ad. So this can be quite valuable when you're trying to begin your cover letter. So where to find a template to assist you with writing a cover letter? Well, you may have some favorite site on Microsoft Word that could assist you with writing cover letters, but we also have a template that you can use on our website at Employment Solutions. So if you go to www.empsolutions.ca and you look for the tab at the top of the page, it says Cover Letter and Resume. So you click on the tab and scroll down the page and select Cover Letters. There you'll find a template to assist with writing a cover letter. If you follow the directions given to complete the letter, and then you're able to save it on a flash drive or on your computer. So it certainly help you with putting a cover letter together. I want to thank you for attending our webinar today on creating a winning cover letter. I hope you found the information useful. We now have some time for some questions. Has anyone got any questions? Okay, I don't see any questions on the questions. Hang on a minute, there may be one. Question is, should you mail a thank you letter or drop it off in person if possible? There's no real right or wrong way to drop your cover letter off, whether it's something you email to the employer or you drop it off in person or you feel that you want to mail it. The most important thing is the time factor between the interview and getting your cover letter, your thank you letter to the employer. So if you're hoping to get that thank you letter in before they make their decision, it might be wise to try to get it to the employer in a very timely fashion. So if you think mailing it takes too long, then dropping it off, of course, in person would certainly work, or emailing it. It's kind of to your discretion as to how you want to handle that, but the sooner the better.